of a single common goal. And so I wound up running for legislature, was not successful the first time, but have been fortunate enough to be in the legislature for the last 6 years. And so now we find ourselves in 2017, and I think back to the moments that got me first engaged to get into politics in the first place, and how naive we were then, how good we had it then, how scary this moment is. But here's the thing, and I know how we feel about ourselves here in Oak Park, and I know how we feel about ourselves in Evanston. It's not just Oak Park and Evanston. Everywhere I go in the state of Illinois, whether it's Edwardsville or Normal or Glen Ellen or other places that ordinarily don't have a lot of democratic or progressive activism, people are rising up. People are part of this new resistance because people understand the stakes. And so we have not just an unbelievable challenge coming at us from this nightmare in Washington, but an extraordinary opportunity. I see the state legislature as very much a part of that resistance. We don't have the luxury any longer to say, oh, I'm going to stay in my lane in Springfield, we'll let the county government stay in theirs, and just count on our friends in Washington to do what's right. We have a responsibility, all of us from whatever platform we have, to be a part of this resistance. That's why I put in legislation in Springfield that I think we're going to pass that says you can't appear on the ballot for president unless you've released 5 years of tax returns. That's why I'm fighting with all of my being for legislation, House Bill 40, you've probably heard about, to protect the women of Illinois from the attack on the Supreme Court. That's why we're fighting to make Illinois a welcoming state, to stop Illinois law enforcement entities to cooperate with ICE and other deportation entities. We have a tremendous opportunity to be the front lines of this resistance and protect millions, I'll say it again, millions of vulnerable people across the state of Illinois from these attacks. But it turns out we have some problems on the state level as well. We haven't had a budget now for more than 21 months. So let's just get this out of the way. Bruce Rauner is a failed governor. Bruce Rauner is a failed governor. Because I happen to find his ideology and his political agenda of busting unions, of pushing down wages, of shrinking the middle class, of hurting working people, repulsive, though it's repulsive. I say that on an objective level. No other governor's done this before. He's broken the world record. 21 months without a budget. People don't know if schools are going to be open. There are 47,000 kids who've lost access to childcare, so their parents, mostly single moms, are unable to go to work any longer. There are tens of thousands of seniors who have lost access to home care. So they're either going to be in the nursing home or else unsafe in their homes. By the way, that'll cost the state more in the long run. There are almost 100,000 people who've lost access to mental health care. Maybe we've read something about the terrifying spike in opioid addiction. Well, there's 24,000 people who've lost access to addiction services. There's 130,000 kids who rely on something called a MAP grant to afford higher education. We've stopped funding those, and so some schools don't know if they're going to cover the difference, and some schools like Northeastern Illinois University are giving their faculty a 20% pay cut to make up the difference. It's insanity. It's ugly, people are being hurt, and lives are on the line. By the way, if you think it's a coincidence that we've shredded social services and the murder rate went up, you're dreaming. This is life and death, and we have to fix it now. But here's the other thing, and I'm sorry to say this, but we've got to be honest about this too. When Bruce Rauner took the oath of office in 2015, not everything was perfect in Illinois. When Bruce Rauner took the oath of office in 2015, we had huge fiscal problems. We already had one of the most unfair tax systems of any state in the country, and one of the most unfair school funding systems of any state in the country. We hadn't raised the minimum wage for about 6 years. It's still only $8.25 an hour. And so we have an opportunity and an obligation, not just, in my opinion, to get rid of this nightmare of a governor, but to start doing the things that we ought to have been doing for decades, and that have we been doing for decades, will enable us to elect Democrats because the people have seen what we can do for people's lives. And so what I see is this incredible confluence, not just of this crisis facing state government, but of a movement of people rising up hungry to take their country and their state back, and a set of policies that we have to enact, not just to stop digging the hole, but to do what we ought to have been doing to improve people's lives across the state. What does that mean? Well, I don't need to lecture you too much about what Don Harmon has made his life's work for the last several years, but I got to start there because the original sin in Illinois budgeting is right there in our Constitution. The reason we have one of the most unfair tax systems in the state, the reason that as all the new money in the economy for generations it's gone right to the top, we haven't been able to access it. The reason we tax the middle class and the working poor too much and our government is still broke is that we have a flat tax in the Constitution. It's wrong, it's economically insane, it is unfair, there are states that have figured out what to do when you're broke. You tax the rich because that's where the money is. We can't do it. We can't do it. And so we've got to start by fixing that, by fixing our tax system so we can have fair taxes on the middle class and the working poor, tax the richest residents who've been the beneficiaries of 2 generations of economic growth, and fund government so it works and fund services properly. That will allow us to finally have a school funding system that's sane. That will allow us to fund our system of higher education properly. That will allow us to fund our human services, to invest in communities, to create jobs in neighborhoods, not just 1 or 2 neighborhoods, but neighborhoods across the state of Illinois that our state government has walked away from. And that walking away has resulted in a lack of economic opportunity and a cycle of despair. We can do all of these things. And what I see, candidly, is a little bit of despair about what the state's opportunities are. A little bit of a, wait a second, aren't we just Puerto Rico or Detroit or Greece? Isn't it hopeless? Don't we just need to kind of manage the decline? And to anyone who says that, I would say, go to downtown Chicago and look around. Look at the wealth in this state. Look at the affluence in the state. Look at the diverse economy in the state. Look at what is going on in the rich parts of the state, and tell me that we can't fund a government that works. Tell me we can't fund a government that invests in people. Tell me we can't fund a government that actually makes people's lives better, lifts up the poor, creates a growing, thriving middle class. We can do these things. We have chosen not to do these things because of a political system that benefits a few. And if we're going to fix that, we're going to do it with a movement of people that's more powerful than any amount of money. That's what this campaign is about. That's why I like the government. That's why we want to have your support. And that's why together I know we can make Illinois not just a place that's not embarrassing, but a place that thrives, a place with a growing middle class, a place with job opportunities for everyone, and a place that invests in people because they're a real asset. Thank you very much for having me. I would love to hear questions. Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the question, Marie?
Senator, can you repeat?
Yeah, I will repeat the questions. The question is, can we all, candidates running, take a pledge to keep this campaign positive? I think our goal needs to be to defeat Bruce Rauner.
Yes.
That's what we're here to do. And I am committed to focusing on him. I'm going to run an honest campaign against Bruce Rauner, and unfortunately a campaign that's honest about him is negative. But the campaigns with the other Democrats needs to not be about each other's flaws. It needs to be about our vision for the kind of state that we ought to have, our vision for the kind of party we have the opportunity to build, and our vision for the kind of politics it's going to take to do this. And I think we will be affirming that goal by going against each other and after each other, and we'll be advancing that goal by talking about what the state needs and what we can all do to advance the state. So that's my first pledge. My second pledge is I plan to win this primary, but if for some bizarre reason I don't win this primary, I'll be working just as hard for whoever does.
How do you feel about the Equal Rights Amendment? As I understand it, there's going to be a movement to introduce legislation on that. Could you speak a bit on that?
Yeah, the question is about the Equal Rights Amendment. It's really a blot on Illinois' history that we were an instrumental state in stopping the ERA from becoming part of the U.S. Constitution back when it ought to have decades ago. So I've always supported it. When the last time the Senate took it up, I was a co-sponsor, and I think it's tragically more important now than ever, given not just the policies, but also the rhetoric, conduct, and behavior of the President of the United States. I think we have to enact that to create legal protections, but also to send a very strong signal about what the values of our country are, notwithstanding the behavior of our President.